We just had all of those bank earnings out. We know you spent a lot of time at the SBA parsing through these earnings and what they meant for small businesses as well as tech investment. What's your big takeaway?
You know, banks are doing pretty well. And one of the things, though, that you noticed is that they are putting a ton of money into technology. J.P. Morgan is putting $9 billion into different kinds of technology. But they've got the earnings. And as long as the economy keeps going, lending and their lending portfolios are performing. Now, you have to worry if we're at the end of a cycle, if maybe some of that lending is a little more risky than usual. So I think that's a bit of caution. But for now, they are all steam ahead, and they don't seem to be affected yet by the other players, the fintechs and the big tech companies, Amazon and PayPal, but they're on the playing field and they're coming.
Oh, so here's my question. Is the fact that banks have not been threatened by these smaller players a problem for small businesses? Because according to your book, the advent of more financial technology and more sort of smaller peer-to-peer and other lending is really the future for many of these small businesses.
Well, you have to give the entrepreneurs and the fintechs credit because they really busted open the marketplace. You know, lending hadn't really changed in 50 or 100 years. You'd Xerox a pile of paperwork and you'd take it down to your bank and you'd wait like 3 weeks or 3 months for an answer. But then in came the fintechs, and you could do the application online and get your answer in an hour. Then Amazon and PayPal and Square came in. And for a while, it looked like the big banks were going to be affected. They were going to go away, and the community banks. But I actually think they are going to be among the winners because, you know what, they have the customers and they have one other benefit. They have low-cost deposits. And these fintechs, you know, they were getting their money from hedge funds, so the loans were too expensive. Yeah. So I think the banks are going to do okay.
I want to congratulate you, Karen Mills, on the Nerd Alert Beach Book of the summer. It's 165 pages, and this book is a threat to families coast to coast, from Bowdoin on down to Florida. This is exceptional book for those in banking and technology. Here's why, Karen. I get it. J.P. Morgan spends a lot of money on technology. You've got the American economist John Oliver going after the joke of small business. There's a zillion cliches about small business. How do you link small business with big banks that really don't want to do business with them?
Well, you know, technology is going to take away some of these frictions that have been in the marketplace. Banks didn't want to do business with anybody who wanted a small loan because they weren't making any money. But if you can automate this, you know, you got artificial intelligence, and you can be the bank of choice along with all the other services you're going to provide. I think, you know, Jamie Dimon, he talks a lot about how much he wants to keep his small business. He's not going to cede that to Amazon.
Okay, so when we were children, it was Chemical Bank. We all get that. There's always that one bank that does small business. Do you see a demonstrable evidence right now that Bank of America wants really to do small business loans?
Bank of America has really chosen to put consumer loans first. But Brian Moynihan grew up in small business, and he was the head of small business when I was the head of the SBA. And he is committed to it. I think when he gets the technology right in consumer, he's going to come back to small business. And Lisa, he knows it's a big market.
And Lisa, what's so scary here is on page 115, there's a scatter dot chart that you can't show children.
I honestly will never show my children a scatter dot plot. For the record.
Here it is. Strategic decisions for banks.
Lest anyone be concerned, I am not showing scatter dot plots to my children. Karen, one question that I have is, it's not so much the question of banks or other investors, private debt investors and equity investors investing in small businesses. It's the small businesses are not demanding those loans. What do you make of that? The demand for loans has not been as robust as many people would like to see.
You know, small businesses got really crushed in the recession. And one of the reasons was it was a financial crisis and the banks stopped lending. But the other reason was that they really lost their markets, and they were very, very slow to recover and very cautious. And we don't have as many business startups as we used to. So I think it's worth worrying about the small business sector. And, you know, to your point, everybody talks about small business, but I call it the political paradox. Nobody does anything for it. So how about some bipartisan legislation this year, the Small Business, Act of 2019? We could do something.
And what could we do? Is it a rebate on yield? I mean, what is the actual tactical execution to quote unquote do something?
Well, small businesses do love tax breaks. That is absolutely one thing. They also love health care. You know, they want to provide health care for their employees, cheap exchanges that allow them to get as the Affordable Care Act headed in that direction. Those are some of the things. They like tax credits on investments to make it easier for them to buy equipment. Those would be part of the packages that we've seen work in the past. And, these don't cost a lot of money.